So with CES coming to a close and seeing all the XR tech announced, I'm sure a bunch of you without VR are sitting there like, oh man, I wish I could afford VR, all these headsets are way too expensive. Well, that's where you're wrong. Well, kind of. Something that people often discount as a perfectly viable way to get into VR is buying a headset used. Whether it be Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, or just a good old-fashioned pawn shop, getting yourself a used headset is an amazing way to get into VR without breaking the bank, while also helping to reduce a bit of e-waste in the world. The only thing is, maybe you don't know much about VR. Maybe you don't know what to look for, and maybe you don't know how to tell the scams from the people legitimately just selling their old headset. I'm here to help, so let's dive into this virtual world together and not only show you how to confidently buy yourself a VR headset for cheap, but also show you how to take care of your headset since you may not get all of the big warnings and manuals you'd usually get right out of the box. So before we hop too far into this video, the most important two things you need to know right now if you are buying a VR headset or you already have one: do not, under any circumstances, put the VR headset's lenses in either direct or very strong indirect sunlight. And number two, always ask to test out a used one first before handing them the cash. For this video, I'm going to be focusing mainly on the Meta Quest 2, previously known as the Oculus Quest 2, since this is the headset that most people have or are looking for online when they want to hop into VR for the first time. That said, most of everything here is applicable to just about every VR headset, so hopefully we cover all the bases here. Just about any VR headset has these warnings in the form of little stickers on the lenses when you first take it out of the box, but if you're buying used, you're not going to get those. The lenses on a VR headset work like a magnifying glass, only you're not burning a piece of paper or some leaves, you're burning the physical displays inside your headset. If you see splotches like these when you turn on the headset, you've got yourself a bad deal. Important thing to note is that the cameras on the outside are completely fine to play with in a sunny room or even outside if you're feeling risky, and you don't mind having your neighbors stare at you in your front yard. If you can't help but keep it in a sunny room, consider buying yourself a lens cover for a few bucks, or even just get a smooth microfiber cloth to stuff in there when you need to take it off for a few minutes, because a few minutes is all it takes for the sun to do its work. The lenses on your VR headset are the window to the virtual world, so please just take care of them. Do not, under any circumstances, use any kind of glasses cleaner, screen cleaner, water, or rubbing alcohol on your lenses to clean them. Don't just use your shirt like a lot of people do, because if you wind up scratching it, you're gonna really regret not spending like $5 on a microfiber cloth for your $400 device. I'd avoid these kind of scratchy feeling microfiber cloths personally, just because they hang on to things like crumbs and stuff that could scratch up your lenses if you don't know they're there, so I'd just recommend getting one of these nice, smooth, kind of thin microfiber cloths to be safe. Now, the way to spot this kind of damage, if you spot actual scratches on the lenses, that's one clear way, but if you see splotches, kind of like water spots, this could be a sign that they've been using something like Lysol wipes or glasses cleaner, like they weren't supposed to. It could just be like a drop of dried sweat or something like that, or some dust, so maybe bring a microfiber with you when you're trying out the headset to dust it off quickly and see if it'll come off or if it's actually permanent damage. Now, if you're like me and you need to wear glasses, you'll want to make sure they give you the glasses spacer, this little thing right here that comes with every Quest 2, unless you want to have the lenses on your headset start looking like this. Now, let's say you do see some scratches on the headset. Don't worry. This stuff right here is an amazing product called Polywatch that you can buff onto your lenses to get you more or less back to normal with even the most intense scratches. The YouTuber Thrillseeker was an absolute mad lad and used sandpaper on his Quest 2 lenses to see how intense you could have the damage for Polywatch to fix, and it turned out completely fine still. If you don't mind spending a bit more money, you could Google some prescription VR lens companies to make your VR experience a bit better and protect the lenses. You can even buy them just to protect the lenses for like $20 without a prescription. So that's the main advice for spotting a bad deal cleanliness-wise. But for some general care advice, with a new Quest 2, you're supposed to get a nice little silicone cover that goes over the foam padding at the faceplate cover at the front of the headset. Some people actually throw this away for some reason, and just like to have the nice plush foam padding on their face instead. You could use that if you want, just know that you have to wash that pretty regularly, because grime, when you're playing in VR, builds up way faster than you might think. If you need a replacement silicone cover, they sell them for like $10 on Amazon, so don't really worry about that too much. The cover for your face is going to collect a whopping load of grime while you play, so personally I like to keep a super damp paper towel or something like that nearby when I play to wipe it off occasionally. You should especially keep this in mind if you're over at a friend's place and switching between a lot of people taking turns. So the two things that really tie you to virtual reality are the controllers. So definitely take a look at the controllers in detail to know what you're buying. A few scuffs here and there from them smacking a cabinet one time isn't a big deal. The controllers are actually really freaking durable. Like, really durable. The headset in general, actually. As a little side tangent, one Redditor recently was wearing their headset in the passenger seat of a car. I don't know why, but they got into a car crash. Everyone involved in the crash was fine, but just about everything was smashed, except for the headset. Look at this. Just needs to buy like a new set of controllers, a face cover, and you're good to go. Anyway, as long as the controllers are all in one piece, you're probably going to be fine. There's this thing called controller stick drift that can happen occasionally if people are really rough with their controllers. So hold it in your hand and move the control stick around. It should easily just snap right back to its upright position and not kind of lean to one side. Now, if the controllers you're buying are downright awful, it isn't the end of the world though, because Meta actually sells replacement controller sets as well as a pro set if you want better tracking. But since we're trying to save a buck by buying used here, I wouldn't quite recommend it unless you really do want some better controllers. This once again just comes down to testing out the product before you buy it. Now that's how you can spot the good, the bad, and the ugly, but let's talk about the big issue that deters a lot of people from wanting to buy used: the scams. I'll say this one again because I can't drill it in enough. Always make sure you arrange to try out a VR headset with the owner first before you commit to buying it from them. Some people have literally kept theirs on a windowsill for a year or two since they got it, not knowing that that's even damaging the headset. So whether they're even aware of it or not, they might be scamming you with a super toasty set of lenses inside. The second thing, don't ever believe anyone saying that they'll throw in some games or the warranty for a Quest 2. The warranty for Meta's products only applies to the person that originally bought the product, and any games you own on the Quest are all tied to your account and your account only. This also extends to people offering Quest 2 games loading service. As long as you see the headset is in good condition, the price is right, buying used is honestly a great idea. That said, the price situation with buying used these days is a bit odd, so let me explain if you're out of the loop. When the Quest 2 was first released, Meta decided to take a huge loss on every headset sold in order to get as many people into VR as they could, selling every headset at only $300, completely undercutting every other company at the time. 2 years later though, as their stock prices started to descend into darkness, they couldn't take as much of a loss on the headsets anymore and raised the price by $100. Given that, it's still an amazing price at retail for everything you get in the box, but if you're buying used, that means that you're getting a lot of people that bought their headset over 2 years ago and are actually trying to flip it into a profit by selling it for like $50 less than retail. Now, with that said, this isn't always a bad deal. If they happen to be including some accessories with that price tag, that's actually pretty damn good. I personally bought my Quest 2 used for about the equivalent of $275 when it had the price tag of $299. But with that, I got the official carrying case, the Elite head strap, a set of controller grips, a clean third-party silicone face cover, and the headset itself was just in great condition. With all of that added up at retail price, I actually saved a couple $100 instead of having to buy all of those for myself. And tons of people do this since they won't need the stuff anymore anyway after they've sold the system. So if you find someone selling even just for retail, but it comes with some premium accessories, don't look the other way immediately because you might have just found a great deal. Alright, so you've got yourself a VR headset. What now? Where do you start? Well, there are a ton of videos out there already for beginner Quest guides, but for a quick list of things to do right here, number 1, please respect your play space. Clear anything super breakable or any tripping hazards before playing and let everyone that you live with know to not come walking by you while you're in VR. Otherwise, they might get a face full of controller. Use the Guardian outline and be as accurate with it as possible, and don't play right next to your bed frame or countertop unless you're ready to smack your knuckles off of there every now and then or wind up on the VR to ER subreddit. Number 2. If you're new to VR, start slow and don't put yourself in anything too hectic at first. Some people have a flight response when they're scared, and the last thing you want to do is put a hole in your drywall because you saw a zombie and literally ran the other way because you got too immersed. Number 3. A lot of people complain about motion sickness in VR, but then give up on VR altogether. I would say stick with it, because motion sickness can happen at first for some people, but just like getting used to sailing at sea, we call this getting your VR legs. If you do get motion sick at first, don't worry, just sit down, your brain is just adjusting to seeing a new world that it isn't used to. It takes some people longer than others to get used to that feeling. Play seated in a chair if you need, and take a break every hour or so until you start to adjust. Number 4. Both Meta and Steam have a refund policy, so as long as you haven't played more than 2 hours of a game in a span of 14 days, you can contact support and get a full refund. So try as many games as you want, almost completely risk-free. Also, Google the site SideQuest. It's a website full of great indie games that you can manually load onto your Quest 2, most of which are completely free. And finally, number 5. You can actually connect your Quest 2 to a gaming PC, wired or wireless, to play even more VR games. And you don't actually need the most powerful PC like some people might lead you to believe. I'm literally playing VR on just an i5-8400 and a GTX 1080, so 6-year-old mid-tier gaming PC specs, but still great VR. If you have the cash to spare, you can always go for the top of the line if you want, but playing PC VR is definitely not the $5,000 endeavor that some people want you to think it is. Heck, you could build my current PC build with used parts today for probably like $500. Anyway, that's just about it. Hope that I was able to help some of you here today, and at the very least make you feel confident enough in buying a used VR headset for yourself. If you'd rather have a warranty and know that it's fresh and clean right out of the box, I'm definitely not saying that buying a new one is a bad idea. But if you want to save a few bucks and get into VR right now, rather than waiting and saving up for the best of the best later on, buying used is honestly a great way to go. If you feel there's anything super important I missed, feel free to let me know. I'll pin that info down below in a comment if anyone gives me some extra info that I should have included here. Subscribe if you want to see more weekly VR content from me later on, and hit that like button if you want to help me keep the YouTube algorithm from putting me 6 feet under. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.